Alright guys, so season 1 of Predecessor is coming to a close, so I just wanted to take a look back and break down the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. First, let's jump into the good. Omega has had the best communication I have ever experienced in my time playing online games, and this is actually what made me confident enough to make the jump from Smite to Predecessor. Omega has taken the time to let players know what to expect and when to expect it via the roadmap, Q&As over on Reddit, and the very detailed patch notes as well. Speaking of which, the patch notes themselves have been handled, while not perfectly, still very well. Item changes are detailed in full, and I really appreciate the explanations they give tied to each change they make. Omega does also use the patch notes as a way to give us insight into future changes. For example, the ADC item rework we knew about in advance via the patch notes, as well as plans to address time to kill in Season 2. Now, balance is, and always will be, a hot topic in MOBAs. Everyone perceives things differently and has their own way they think problems should be handled. I think Omega has done a great job with balance changes. Let's take a look at Steel, for example. Steel was an absolute powerhouse at launch, destroying every game he was a part of, and I believe actually had the highest win rate by the time the first patch came around. Instead of destroying the character by nerfing him into the ground, Omega slowly nerfed him bit by bit until he was in a balanced state. We also saw this with Crunch and even in items with Raiment of Renewal. Even just recently, Raiment received another nerf, and now in my opinion feels like it's in a pretty balanced state compared to other items. In other games, we see what I always called hot water, cold water balancing, which when a character is strong, the devs drop a huge nerf and the character becomes useless. Another great character to look at for balancing is Countess. For a while, Tank Countess was destroying the scene with the Worldbreaker Brimstone build, or Fire Blossom, which clearly that's not how Omega wanted or intended Countess to work exactly. So not only did they balance the problematic items, but they also modified a bit of Countess' kit to promote building magical power instead of just pure tank options to get more value out of her heal. They just simply moved numbers away from flat healing to now it's scaling. And next I want to talk about reworks. It's obvious the game is in early access, but Omega has shown they're not willing to let something that doesn't feel right stay as it is, even though, again, this is still early access. We've seen this with both the Fangtooth rework as well as the slight map redesign we got with the Orb Prime and Fangtooth walls. Now they're more consistent to flash in and out of and like jump over. I hope you understand what part of the map I'm talking about. Both these changes though have drastically enhanced the consistency and reduced frustration in nearly every match. Chances are you're going over the wall one way or another at some point in the match via flash, a dash, a jump. And now you don't, like, as consistently get that time where you almost make it and you slowly slide down the wall. Most other MOBAs would have waited until the next season to drop these changes as kind of like a selling point. But Omega wanted the game to feel better right away. So they implemented the changes, and it has enhanced the enjoyment of Season 1 for sure. Hero releases are probably the most important thing you need to look at when trying to build up hype for your live service game. Omega's done a great job teasing returning characters with images, lore and patch notes, and the gameplay highlight videos. We actually just saw this with the Phase highlight video. They did also reveal what characters were coming in Season 1 via the roadmap, but I actually wish they would have kept them a secret. This is a bit of a down. I would have liked for them to keep us guessing until, you know, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the character came out. I didn't need to know that Shinbi was coming out 4 months before she did. I feel like that would have, like, that ruined the surprise for me because I love Shinbi. When it came to Omega's first original hero, Kira, we got a bit extra. We got a slight cinematic trailer as well as a reveal stream, and even content creators were able to get involved, capture footage early to get their viewers hyped up right away for her release. I was a part of that. Thank you again to Omega. Super fun time. All these aspects were handled fairly well for the most part, and were definitely appreciated. I loved the reveal stream. I thought that was a great idea. Ultimately, I wish the content creator like capture weekend thing would have been planned a bit better along with the reveal stream, but it is what it is. In regards to Kira herself, she was well designed, she fits in very well with the other characters, and is both fun to play as and against. She doesn't do anything incredibly obnoxious when you're playing against her. Balance is a different discussion with the whole Terminus thing. If you ask someone who has never played Paragon who the non-Paragon character was, they wouldn't be able to tell you. She fits in with the cast so well. Like, I don't think she stands out from Countess or Sparrow. Like, honestly, I think Sparrow might be the one who stands out the most because she's so basic. She fits in really well. Omeda did a great job with Kira. The last good that I wanted to discuss is just the fact that Predecessor is a successful evolution of Paragon. The upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 has been wonderful. Visually, the game just looks better. Especially when it comes down to team fights, it's a lot easier to tell what's happening. Part of my issue with Paragon and why I stopped playing it was like the blooming effects on abilities. It was oftentimes it was very difficult sometimes to see what abilities have been used. It's just the blooming effects are crazy. And that's what I love about Predecessor, is that problem's gone. It looks good. It runs really smooth. The only time I ever have performance issues is with Chimera's Q, and I think since the Q rework, I don't have those issues anymore even. So good job, Omeda. Now that we've talked about the good, let's dive into the bad. Now let me target my home here for a bit, the jungle. I would love to see some diversity with the jungle camps. As of right now, they're all the same, either small minions in different sizes, or one big colorful minion. And I do believe they all deal physical damage. It would be awesome to get some diversity by, for example, making the blue buff a caster that deals magical damage and can't be kited because it's got ranged attacks. Smite actually does this, and it's where I got this idea from. Some of the camps do deal different damage types, and some of the camps are just ranged, so they don't kite as far. And with the current map, I think the 2 camp could also be ranged, so when invading, you can't pull them closer to mid, so it's more of a risky invade option compared to what it is right now, because I do think 2s are rather easy to invade after a gank in mid. As of right now, the only camps that feel different at all are the river bugs, which they just die in one hit anyway, so I'd love to see some diversity. I would love to see this changed. Map design in general is something that needs to be addressed as well, and this could, going back, make for a more interesting jungle, make it more logical to put different kinds of minions in. As it stands, the map is just too small. The map needs to be widened, at least, if nothing else. Right now, rotating is way too easy. You don't lose enough from a failed gank, and this is why currently you see so many ganks and see them so early. Because the mid laner is losing nothing, the off laner is losing nothing. Even if they fail that gank, they lose nothing or so little that it's inconsequential. Sticking with the focus on the map, it's simply unbalanced. One team has Fang side advantage, while one team has Orb side advantage. Given that these jungle bosses provide different buffs, it creates, at various points in the game, unbalanced situations. Thanks to that motorcycle. Honestly, this would be kind of fun for competitive or tournaments where you're playing multiple game sets. The issue is we don't have a way in custom games to allow for players to pick which side of the map each team is on. So even the fun part about it, we can't really use, because custom games are the definition of bare bones. The final thing that I want to talk about that I would consider a bad is about the crests. Now, the crest system is fine. I actually was going to put crests in good, but I think they're being held back. I actually prefer them over items with actives, which will, if you look at like League of Legends with Sonya's Hourglass, I actually prefer the crests. The issue is Omeda just doesn't seem to want to balance them. Honestly, the only one that I can remember a balance change for is Phoenix. And I honestly didn't even really think that change was necessary, but it's fine. Razorback has been the undisputed best crest since launch. That is so strong, and all you need to do is look at Smite, and I know I keep comparing this game to Smite, and it's not Smite, but you just look at Smite. Thorns, I don't think, ever did as much reflect damage as Razorback. And yet, Thorns still had to be nerfed in Smite multiple times because it kept getting out of hand. And Razorback is so out of hand in this game. This is the one thing that I'm actively like, this makes me not want to play. This one balance issue makes me not want to play. I don't think it's been touched a single time. The other issue I have with crests right now is ADCs only having one viable crest option while every other character playing every other role could viably play at least 2 crests. I mean, you're talking like mid laners have 2 crest options. Maybe not optimal, but at least it's there. You can have some fun with it. Like, people will go, was it Obelisk, Bellica in mid? Or you get like Typhoon Howitzer or Stasis Howitzer. He's got like the 2 different, and those build from 2 different base crests, right? And like even jungle, a lot of them can go Assassin, Fighter, with the crit item reworks, less so the Hunter crest, but you get my point. It unfortunately creates a linear build path for only one person on the map. So I would like to see an additional Hunter crest. I don't know what that would be, but it'd be cool to see one, hopefully in the future. Alright, now it's time for the Downright Ugly. The things that, in my opinion, are absolutely killing Predecessor currently. First up is a major personal gripe I have had since day one, and I've even let the devs know the frustrations I have with this myself, though their response was more or less, this is as intended, you're wrong. Ultimates not going on cooldown because they didn't damage a player. What I'm saying is, if Gideon gets stunned before his ult damages someone, he gets his ult back. So if I stun Gideon out of ult, why am I punished for an optimal play? Now my ability is on cooldown, and Gideon just gets to keep his ult and fire it again. It's absolutely insane that I am punished for doing something good. It's absurd. I can't stand it, and it's something I absolutely beg will be changed, but I don't think it will be. Let's talk about balance again. That's right, balance is good, bad, and it's ugly. Now, Omeda, how do you change the breach passive and not give us another anti-shield option? Because now in my games, I've got Gadget with her passive, True Silver, and Soul Bearer Crest? I don't have the name pulled up right now. Giving her 3 shields. Right now, I have more difficulty killing Gadget than I have ever killing any other character since launch. It's completely crazy. Not to mention, they also removed Breach at Muriel's peak, a character who is all about shielding. And we wonder why Muriel keeps getting nerfed. It's because we don't have an anti-shield option. As soon as an anti-shield option gets brought back in, do you know how bad Muriel's gonna be? She's gonna be awful. Because we buffed her to make her viable, and then we removed her counterplay. So then she was incredibly overpowered. It was completely asinine. And their excuse was, it's too niche. Yeah, that's... And? Is anti-heal also too niche? Like, is anti-heal too niche for you? You could have added a secondary passive to Breach to make it not so niche if that's your issue with it. Not remove a counterplay option from the game. I think it's ridiculous. I have been actually frustrated with Omeda over 2 things, and those are the 2 things. Throughout the entirety, almost, of Season 1, the ban system has been absolutely abysmal. When Predecessor launched, there was only 2 options, banned or not banned. Because of this, people that would abuse text chat, but also weren't worthy of a full ban, were just kind of let to run amok and ruin people's games. I do recall Omeda stating that chat mute was an option now. I think this was a couple months ago, but at launch this wasn't the case. To be honest, I'm not convinced Omeda is capable, or at least they are not willing to IP ban people. I'd be surprised if they were. I would love to see evidence of it. But there are 2 people off the top of my head that I have never experienced people who are worse people. I have played Smite for 7 years. I have never experienced people this toxic. And Smite has voice chat. I've never experienced 2 people who are this toxic, and I know they are still playing the game. I know their current account names. So I'm not convinced IP banning is an option. That absolutely kills the game. Another thing holding the game back is item and ability descriptions. Now, if you go to the hero page, all the info is there. Great, perfect. I understand everything. And same can be said for items. I go to the item page, boom, great, everything's there. I know how the item works. But as soon as I enter a game, the info's gone. So much info just not there for some reason. You can just copy and paste it. Like, that's all you have to do, right? Just copy paste the text. I don't know why that's not a thing we've done. It seems really stupid. There's no way it's this complicated that it couldn't have been done and improved. The info is that's missing is mostly regarded to percentages. So like, oh, this does 50% of your physical power. So instead of that, you will then see just the flat number you are getting. So at the start of the game, you know, Sevarog, if he has 50% magical scaling, but he has no magical damage, the number will just be 0. You don't know how much you're getting. If you buy an item, you then have to do the math to know what the percentage you're getting is for when you buy future items, so you know the value on it. It seems crazy. Also, in some cases, I'm thinking like Overlord, there's just no number. For example, Overlord, you deal damage in a small area around you based on your physical power. You could be dealing damage equal to 100% of your physical power or 5%. You don't know. And there's no way to know unless you're really, really, really good at math. And you can account for all of your items and your base stats, and you can figure out the percentage. And like on-hit effects might mess that up. It's absolutely crazy that the numbers just aren't there. Put the numbers there. Not hard. I guarantee you it's not hard. Now, lastly, I think this is the thing that is hurting Predecessor the most, and it's failed promises. If you look at the roadmap for Season 1, we never got public API. That's huge what people want right now. We never got competitive nights. I don't think people really care, but it's there. And we never got spectator mode and replays, which is hurting tournaments. Some tournaments were holding out for this because this was supposed to be in Season 1, and then they had to give up and schedule it at a time they didn't want to. When it comes to a promise, it's better to promise the treetops and deliver the stars, because then you're exceeding our expectations. But what Omega has done is promised us the stars and delivered us the treetop. If you do this, you're just disappointing your player base. You're putting doubt in our minds that you are not capable of the job. Now, I think what Omega has done is amazing. It's the broken promises that really suck. And I know that, like, they were like, oh, we're gonna hold some of it off till Season 2. If you're gonna promise this, don't do that. Like, that's as simple as that. Don't make broken promises. But that's all for the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Season 1 of Predecessor. It's been a blast. I'm thankful I could be around for the development of such a great game, and I'm super excited to see what Season 2 has in store. That's all for me. Bears out. Peace.